In 2001, Apple released the revolutionary Mac OS X, replacing their aging classic Mac OS with a truly next-generation operating system. But in the lead-up to release, Apple seeded out 4 OS X developer previews, and, well, they were kinda weird. So today, let's install all 4 developer previews on this unassuming blue and white G3 for the world's most ridiculous and probably unstable quadruple booting Mac. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy using strange, obscure, and unstable operating systems, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. So I've always been really fascinated with these developer previews, but I've never actually used any of them. I've been on both sides of them. I've played with Apple Rhapsody, which is the direct precursor to OS X, and I actually used the Mac OS X public beta when that came out, directly after the previews. But the previews themselves, they're pretty neat. Not only do they give an interesting look at things like how the dock evolved, just look at this monstrosity, but over the course of 4 pre-release but still functional operating systems, you can really see the evolution from Next Step and classic macOS design language to the Darwin-based BSD with candy-colored, shiny widgets that we all came to know and love. So I thought it would be fun to kind of walk back through time, starting from the final first release of macOS X Cheetah, and then installing each developer release in reverse order to see what kind of weird things changed between them. So let's crack open this poor, unassuming Mac and, yeah, get straight into it. So this is actually kind of a special Power Mac G3 blue and white because it's a very early one. It's one of the very first, released in 1999. But that also means it's kind of exactly the type of machine that would be running these developer previews because this is what developers were using and the developer previews started coming out in 1999. I actually just did a video on this machine where I kind of talked about some of that, so check that out right here. Anyway, let me crack this open and show you what we're actually going to be installing the 4 developer previews on. So if we pop out the video card here, and the SCSI controller card, we can see the IDE connectors on the motherboard here. One for the optical drive and the other for a hard drive, although of course this one has a SCSI drive from the factory. But we're going to be using one of these HyperDisk industrial flash disk modules, which are basically small IDE SSDs. This one is 4 gigabytes, and I know from the last video that it works just fine. And look how nice it looks just sticking up here from the IDE connector. Oh yeah, that's heavy. And we'll start this endeavor by installing the final release version of macOS 10.0 Cheetah and taking a quick poke around so we can have a frame of reference for what the final product, polished, actually looked like. Alright, booted into the official final consumer-facing installer. We have the Apple logo here. We have disk utility available. Yeah, dev disk 0, so there's DP 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those are going to hold the 4 different developer previews, as you may have guessed. But for now, we're going to install macOS 10.0 onto the first of those partitions, and we'll just overwrite it later. Here we have 893 megs free on each of these. 1.1 gigs is required for installation. Uh-oh. Alright, so I had a bit of a rummage around the laboratory / basement, and I found in one of my other machines a 16 gigabyte version of this that works in here. So I successfully installed macOS 10 Cheetah, and it is booting for the first time now. I don't know if this intro song is copyrighted, so we'll skip that. A language selection screen, setup wizard here. Fly through this, and we are in. Started up with the Sean's computer open, and we'll eject this very loud CD. And you can see we have now a bunch of 2 GB partitions, one for 10.0 and then one for each developer preview. And we won't dwell too long in here, but let's just take a quick look at how the interface is set up. And oh, that's pretty silky smooth. So we have the Apple logo in the corner, as you would expect, with the shutdown and logout options here. About this Mac shows Mac OS X version 10.0.3. Nice dock down here, and of course I always like to change the settings because magnification is the most important thing to me. Alright, I think we have a pretty good idea of how Mac OS X final release looks. Let's install some developer previews, starting with good old DP4. Right after this word about today's sponsor, PCBWay. Not only does PCBWay offer high-quality PCB prototyping and production, but they also offer on-site PCB assembly, and they can source some of the components with their turnkey service. PCBWay also offers a ton of additional services like high-quality 3D printing, injection molding, CNC machining. They even offer sheet metal fabrication. And if you're looking for ideas for projects, check out their shared projects section with tons of cool stuff submitted by other PCBWay users. So if you have any PCB or prototyping needs, I hope you'll give PCBWay.com a try. Alright, check it out. We are booting into Developer Preview 4. Oh boy, alright, well, this already looks pretty weird. Well, it's in a much worse resolution for some reason. It looks like it's in 640 by 480. We have an American flag in the middle of the screen. Oh, it's a little bit slow. We have some languages. Chinese is not installed. I don't know what that is. There's like a saddle for a horse or a robot. That's weird. I think I've frozen the installer by trying to select the services menu option. Alright, let's try this again. Okay, so apparently this installer is slightly buggy and appears to have been completely overhauled before final release, or replaced even, so let's not click around randomly and just go through the install. Alright, this will install to the DR4 partition. Make sure it's formatted. And yeah, default install. Alright, so first boot of Developer Preview 4, which was released in May of 2000, about 9 months or so before the final Mac OS X was released to the public. And no fun intro song here, I guess. Straight into the Setup Assistant, which looks a lot like the Rhapsody Setup Assistant, just wrapped in the Mac OS X Aqua theme. So let's go through this real quick. Very secure password. Ethernet port, yep. Talk to DHCP. Alright, a very different method of adding users here. And let's set it up. Oh, we have to restart for these settings to take effect. Oh, and check this out. This is still the next step style login screen. Name, password, and the 3 options right here. It's just skinned in the Aqua theme. That's actually really cool. Okay, let's log in here. Oh, it even does the whole zoop kind of shrink to the middle. That's awesome. Alright, so apparently this is in 640 by 480 and it started Finder in the home folder, but look, it's very different from the final Mac OS Finder window. Let's see if we can change the resolution here. Yeah, this is very different. More different than I was expecting. Okay, I adjusted the camera for the new refresh rate here. Look how weird this dock is. It's completely transparent for some reason. And the icons here don't look like SVGs. In fact, they look like raster graphics, which means you can see the pixels as they zoom in. All right, and the other interesting thing is, instead of the Apple logo in the corner, there's just the name of whatever it is we're looking at. So when the desktop is open, it says desktop. When you have an application open, the name of the application is here. Interesting. And we have some version of Internet Explorer. Looks like we are not online. Let's see what version this is. Yeah, Carbon Beta 1 macOS 10 DP4 edition. That's cool. Look, 5.1b1 Doug. Wow, neat. Look, like all this text is all messed up in here and not aligned right. Okay, so when it first starts up, there is a background. Maybe it just bugged out last time. Because look, the background's there after the restart. Huh, alright. Oh, look at that. The Apple logo is in the middle of the taskbar here, which is actually how it looks on the public beta as well. And I guess if there's too many menu items here, it just kind of removes it, and you can't click on it to do anything. It's only there for fashion. All right, what kind of software is on here? Applications. All right, a lot of the normal macOS 10 stuff. Oh, look at this. We have the demos from Next Step in here. HTML edit.app. Here's our famous chess.app. Looks pretty good. Alright, so that was very interesting. Let's go back even further with DP3. And interesting enough, the DP3 CD boots directly into Mac OS 9, I guess, to kickstart the install. Alright, so we'll choose Install Mac OS 10. Developer Preview 3. Alright, and here we are loading into the actual DP3 installer, released in February of 2000. Alright, and this seems to be slightly different still. We have the Apple icon in the middle, again, just for fashion. And over here we have the icon of the program, not the name. So that's the icon for the installer. Interesting. About Installer X opens up, oh, blank screen, okay. No about information. Other than that, this looks about the same. And looks like we have the same setup assistant, which is a holdover from Next Step, OpenStep, and Rhapsody. In fact, that's the same icon that those systems use. Now look at this. Still with the Next Step style login screen, only with the aqua theme and colors on the buttons this time. Interesting. Ho! Look at this dock. Goodness gracious. That is a weird looking dock. Alright, let's see if we can change the resolution here. And yeah, here we are in the desktop, and very similar looking to DP4, although look at that dock. Each individual icon has its own distinct background, so it's more like a panel, kind of reminiscent of the Next Step OpenStep panel, which would be here, and still had like the square icons with their own backgrounds. Interesting. And yeah, we have the icon of whatever is running up in the corner here instead of the name. I like that a lot. About this Mac is a blank window. Go into preferences. Oh, magnification. Oh my goodness, look at that. I think I like it right about here. Maximum magnification. All right. For software, applications, no, mail, preview, text edit, no web browser. All right, also interesting, we have the demos folder. Look at all this. There's way more old Next Step and Rhapsody stuff in here. Like, look, we've got Boink Out. Oh, goodness gracious, look at this. Oh, it's got some rendering issues. But it's here. Oh, lost. Ah, it just clipped through my paddle. What is that? What is Blast App? Whoa, look at this. Oh, this is awesome. Why didn't this make it into macOS 10 final release? Oh, I would play this for hours. Look at those graphics. That's pretty sweet. Chess icon looks a little different, but the game is the same. Pretty cool. Okay, I am really curious if we can run macOS 10 software from this beta. So let's go into the 10.0 applications and see if we can run Internet Explorer. Nope, doesn't like that. Alright, well, time to get even weirder with OS X DP2. Once again, booting into macOS 9 here in this DP2 install, and this was seeded to developers in November 1999. Oh, wasn't expecting this to be so different. Alright. And a dramatically different loading screen here. Yeah, Developer Preview 2 here is the last gasp of the old school Platinum interface. And yeah, as such, looks a lot like Mac OS 9, and is kind of like the last dying breath of Rhapsody, although the underpinnings are different. Yeah, pretty cool seeing Mac OS 10 with the Platinum theme here. Alright, we're going to stick this onto DR2 here, and default install. Alright, first boot of Developer Preview 2, and yeah, it looks a little more rough around the edges, that's for sure. And here we are in the Setup Assistant. It's pretty neat that this is the same Setup Assistant from the other Developer Previews, only this one still in the old Platinum theme. Same old school Rhapsody icon and everything. Well, let's blow through this real quick. And here we are at the login screen. Pretty cool. Again, the three buttons down here, just like Rhapsody and just like Open Step and Next Step. And wow, how bizarre is this? Mac OS 10 in the Platinum theme. It's just so surreal to see. If we pop into applications, I guess we don't actually have a web browser once again. Under demos, yeah, look at all this. Here's our favorite Boink Out. Oh, still with graphical glitches. Good old chess.app is here. All of our favorites. Oh my god. Well, that looks normal. Other than that, really not a whole lot you can do out of the box. Alright, might as well try to launch some Mac OS 10 applications in here and just see what happens. Probably nothing. Yeah. It pretends to launch, but nothing happens. Aha! Under System Administration, we can get to Terminal. And there we go. Get some uname information, macOS, uname/r. Whoops, uname/r. Yeah, calls itself macOS 10.0. Neat. Alright, one more to try. Good old, the original DP1. Check it out, this one's booting into macOS 8.6. Yeah, this developer preview came out in May of 1999. Yeah, pretty interesting that it's macOS 8.6 here. But, well, let's install. This is much more like the macOS Classic installer. Customize. Yeah, this is the macOS Classic installer. Just installing macOS 10. We're going to put this onto the DR1 partition. Alright, well, I don't believe it's happy here with the first developer preview. Okay, we're on try number 2 for the install here, and yeah, it has somehow ruined the partition. It now shows up as unused free space. So I guess let's try to install to that. Alright, apparently it's happy now because it formatted it properly, I guess, and is copying files over, so I think we're on track. Okay, well, hilariously, USB does not work, but ADB does. So good thing we're doing this on the last Power Mac with a legacy ADB port. And wow, this is very next step, OpenStep, Rhapsody, everything. The file manager with the columns here. Wow, this is pretty wild. Look, about Workspace Manager, Mac OS 10, but everything else about this is exactly like Rhapsody. This is very early on. There is all sorts of weird stuff in here. Look at this HFS private folder with like broken characters. And then you should be able to load macOS 8.6 in the blue box environment, which is, again, the same as Rhapsody. Yeah, check it out. Here we are booting macOS 8.6 inside of macOS 10 Developer Preview 1. Go into About This Computer. Yeah, macOS 8.6. And System Profiler shows the G3 400 megahertz with 256 megs of RAM. And if we shut this down, we should go directly back to macOS 10, and yep, there we go. Oh, under the Apple menu, we do have a bunch of applications. Yeah, look, here is the terminal. If we do uname-r, we get 10.0. Uname says macOS. And you still have to go to File and log out to shut down. Pretty interesting. Okay, so that'll do it for this look at weird developer previews of macOS 10. And it's pretty cool to have all those developer previews booting on this one Macintosh. And in fact, I think I'm gonna bring this Mac to VCF Midwest, where I have a table this year. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more shenanigans like this, please subscribe down below, and thank you very much for watching. And a special thanks to Alex Hoffman, Andrew Nicholson, April White, Camilo Noceda, Chris Algretta, Chris Biggs, Chris Calderon, Chris Nelson, Control-Alt-Reese, Daniel Hubbard, Frodo Jedi, Gaspar Heller, George F. Rosansky, Greg Rutke, Harris Brody, James Fryman, Jason Papaz, Jesse Ezel, Justin Reed, Lyle Truid, Matthew Crowell, Paul Spencer, Ryan, Scott Cedarbaum, Scott Thompson, Sutek, Tom Woodfin, and Unknown Soldier 41, who are my highest tiered patrons and all of my Patreon supporters for helping to make these videos possible.